Everything. Life doesn't wait for perfect conditions to test us. It throws curveballs, unexpected losses, and challenges we never thought we'd have to face. And in those moments, everything, happiness can feel impossible, like a luxury reserved only for people whose lives are easier than ours. But here's the truth: happiness isn't about escaping hardship. Everything. It's about learning how to stand tall in the storm, finding strength in the middle of chaos, and choosing joy even when circumstances try to steal it. This audiobook will show you how. Everything. Not through empty platitudes, but through real practical and soul-shaping principles that anyone, yes, even you, can carry into the hardest seasons of life. Everything. Because happiness is not the absence of pain. It is the presence of meaning, resilience, and choice. Everything. There comes a point in life when you realize that waiting for the perfect moment to be happy is like waiting for the ocean to stop having waves. You'll stand there forever. Everything. Watching the tide rise and fall, and happiness will always feel like something that belongs to someone else. We often tell ourselves, everything. I'll be happy when things calm down, when I get that promotion, when I find the right relationship, when I finally have more money in the bank. But life has a way of moving the goalpost. Everything. The moment we solve one problem, another one comes around. The finish line keeps shifting. If happiness is always tied to conditions, then it becomes a moving target we never quite reach. Everything. What if I told you that joy doesn't begin when your circumstances change? It begins when you decide to embrace it, right here in the middle of whatever chaos, uncertainty, everything, or struggle you're facing. Joy is not the prize at the end of the race. It is the choice you make while running it. I once met a woman whose life completely reframed this truth for me. Everything. She had lost her husband unexpectedly, and by most standards, she had every reason to retreat into despair. Yet when I spoke with her, she radiated light. She laughed easily. Everything. She spoke with warmth, and she carried a kind of peace that made people want to be around her. When I asked how she found the strength to be joyful, she said something I'll never forget. Everything. I can't control what life takes from me, but I can control what I give back to it. And I choose joy. Everything. Because sorrow already took enough from me. That choice didn't erase her grief. It didn't deny her pain. But it kept her from drowning in it. Everything. She had chosen joy as an act of resistance against despair, and that decision gave her the power to keep living, not just surviving. It may sound simple, everything, but choosing joy is one of the most radical acts of courage you can make, and it doesn't always show up as a big, loud, overwhelming feeling. Sometimes it's small, everything. Sometimes joy is just taking a deep breath and saying, I'm grateful for this moment. Sometimes it's laughing at a silly joke, even if everything else in your life feels heavy. Everything. Sometimes it's finding beauty in something ordinary, like the warmth of sunlight through your window or the taste of your morning coffee. Joy doesn't erase pain. It sits beside it. Everything. It whispers, yes, this is hard, and still life has sweetness worth noticing. Many people think happiness is an outcome. Everything. Something that happens after the circumstances finally cooperate. But true joy is a discipline. It's a muscle you strengthen by choosing it again and again. Everything. Even when your feelings tell you not to. And here's the thing: the more you practice, the easier it becomes to find. Think about someone training in the gym. At first, the weights feel impossible, but repetition builds strength. In the same way, everything. When you choose joy daily, when you look for the light instead of staring at the shadows, you train your mind and heart to respond differently to life's challenges. Everything. Instead of being pulled under by negativity, you develop resilience. Joy becomes less about chasing fleeting emotions and more about building a steady foundation that holds you up. Everything. Even when storms hit. I remember a story about Viktor Frankl, the Holocaust survivor and psychiatrist. In the concentration camp, surrounded by unthinkable suffering, everything, he came to a life-changing realization while everything external could be stripped from him: his freedom, his possessions, even his family. One thing remained untouched: everything, the freedom to choose his response. He wrote, everything. The last of human freedoms is to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances. That insight became the heartbeat of his survival, and later, his legacy to the world. Everything. If someone can find purpose and even glimmers of joy in a place as dark as a concentration camp, it proves beyond doubt that joy truly is a choice. Now, everything. I'm not suggesting you deny your struggles or plaster a fake smile over real pain. That kind of surface-level positivity doesn't last, and it doesn't heal. Everything. What I am suggesting is that you give yourself permission to see joy as something deeper, something that coexists with hardship instead of waiting until hardship disappears. Everything. Choosing joy means you refuse to let pain have the final say in your story. It means you claim authority over your inner world, even when the outer world is beyond your control. Everything. Let's make this practical. How do you actually choose joy in the middle of tough times? Start small. Begin by noticing the things you usually overlook. Gratitude is the doorway to joy. Everything. Write down 3 things each day you're grateful for, no matter how tiny. It might be the smile of a stranger, the comfort of your bed, everything, or even just the fact that you made it through another day. These small acknowledgments train your brain to shift its focus from scarcity to abundance. Another practice is reframing. Everything. Life will hand you situations you cannot change, but you can change the story you tell about them. Instead of asking, "Why me?" try asking, "What can this teach me?" Everything. How might this shape me into someone stronger, wiser, more compassionate? That shift in perspective doesn't magically fix the problem, but it transforms your relationship with it. Everything. Suddenly, your struggle becomes a classroom instead of a prison. And don't underestimate the power of laughter. Everything. Sometimes joy is simply allowing yourself to laugh in the middle of difficulty. Laughter breaks heaviness. It reminds you that you're still alive, still human. Everything. Still capable of finding light in the darkness. Even science backs this up. Laughter reduces stress hormones, boosts your immune system, and floods your body with feel-good chemicals. Everything. Something as simple as watching a funny video or telling a silly joke can literally shift the chemistry of your brain. That's joy in action. Everything. But perhaps the most important piece of choosing joy is this: give yourself permission to have it. So many of us feel guilty for experiencing joy when things are hard. Everything. As if happiness means we don't care deeply enough or haven't suffered properly. But joy is not betrayal of pain. It is the medicine for it. It doesn't dishonor your struggle. Everything. It gives you the strength to carry it. You don't need to apologize for wanting to feel alive. You were made for joy, even in the storm. Picture this: you're standing in the rain. Everything. The sky is dark and water soaks you from head to toe. You can't stop the rain from falling, but you can lift your face and feel the cool drops against your skin. Everything. You can dance in it if you choose. That doesn't make the storm less real. It makes you more alive in the middle of it. That is the power of choosing joy. Everything. When you realize that happiness is not a condition but a decision, you take your power back. You stop waiting for the world to hand you permission, and you start granting it to yourself. Everything. And when that happens, life begins to open up in ways you never expected. Suddenly, you see possibilities instead of dead ends. You find laughter in the middle of sorrow. Everything. You discover gratitude in the middle of lack. And you realize that no matter how tough life gets, there is always something you can choose. Always. So the next time you catch yourself saying, "Everything, I'll be happy when," stop. Pause. Ask yourself instead, what joy can I choose right now with what I have? Everything. Exactly where I am. You'll find that happiness doesn't wait for perfect conditions. It blooms in imperfect soil. And when you choose joy, not once but again and again, everything, you'll build a life that no storm can steal from you. There comes a point in every life when the weight of pain feels almost unbearable. The loss of a loved one. Everything. The collapse of a dream you thought would last forever. The betrayal of someone you trusted, the silent struggle with your own inner battles. Pain comes in many shapes. Everything. And it doesn't ask permission before it enters your life. And when it arrives, it leaves you with a question that feels impossible. What do I do with this? Most people don't realize it. Everything. But in that question lies the key to whether you remain broken or you rise stronger than you've ever been. Pain by itself has no meaning. It is raw. It is sharp. Everything. And it can crush you if you let it. But when you begin to assign meaning to pain, when you look it in the eye and say, "This will not be wasted," suddenly, everything, it becomes more than suffering. It becomes fuel. It becomes the very material out of which you build strength, compassion, and purpose. Pain doesn't have to be the end of your story. Everything. It can be the beginning of a greater one. Think for a moment about some of the people who inspire the world. Many of them are not defined by an easy life. Everything. They are remembered because they found a way to turn their deepest wounds into something powerful. Nelson Mandela spent 27 years behind bars. Everything. He could have let bitterness consume him, but instead he walked out of prison with a vision of unity. and his pain gave birth to a movement of reconciliation. Everything. Malala Yousafzai was attacked for seeking an education, but instead of being silenced, she became a global voice for the education of girls. Viktor Frankl, a Holocaust survivor, everything endured horrors beyond imagination. Everything. And yet he wrote that those who have a why to live can bear almost any how. These stories remind us that pain itself is not the enemy. It is our relationship with pain that matters. Everything. But I don't want you to only think about the extraordinary lives of history. Think about your own story. Maybe you've gone through heartbreak that left you questioning your worth. Everything. Maybe you've faced rejection after rejection until you started to believe you weren't good enough. Maybe you've carried loss or financial struggle, everything, or health battles that no one else truly understands. All of these moments of struggle could easily become anchors that hold you down. And yet, everything. They can also become platforms you stand upon to see further than you ever have before. The truth is, pain changes us. That part is unavoidable. Everything. But whether it changes us for better or worse is a choice. Some people let pain harden them, make them bitter, cynical, unwilling to trust again. Others allow pain to soften them, everything, to make them wiser, more compassionate, more resilient. The difference lies in how they interpret the pain, what meaning they choose to attach to it, everything. If you tell yourself that your suffering proves life is unfair, that you are doomed, that you'll never rise again, then you create a prison out of your pain, everything. But if you tell yourself that this pain is shaping you, that it is a teacher, that it is equipping you for something greater, suddenly, the pain begins to transform everything. One of the most powerful ways to turn pain into purpose is to use it in service of others. Think about it, everything. Who better to guide someone through heartbreak than a person who has known it deeply? Everything. Who better to mentor someone struggling financially than the person who once climbed out of that same hole? Everything. Who better to inspire someone facing illness than the one who has fought that battle themselves? When you take your own suffering and turn it into empathy, into action, everything, into encouragement for someone else, it ceases to be wasted. It becomes part of your life's mission. Let me give you a simple but very real example. Everything. I once heard about a man who lost his teenage son in a car accident. The grief was overwhelming, almost unbearable. For a long time, he could barely function. Everything. But instead of allowing that pain to destroy him, he decided to honor his son's memory by starting a foundation that promotes safe driving among teens. Everything. What was once a crushing loss became a force for good that touched thousands of lives. His pain never disappeared. It still hurt, but it carried a purpose that gave it weight, dignity, everything, and direction. You might not start a foundation, but you can still find meaning. Maybe your struggles teach you patience you never had before. Everything. Maybe they teach you how to truly listen to someone else's pain instead of rushing past it. Maybe they equip you with wisdom that one day your children will need. Everything. Meaning doesn't always come in grand gestures. Sometimes it's in the quiet strength you carry into your everyday life. Of course, when you are in the middle of deep pain, everything, talk of purpose can feel distant, even unfair. You might be thinking, I don't want purpose right now. I just want relief. And that's human, everything. Healing always begins with allowing yourself to feel what you feel. There is no need to rush, no need to pretend you're strong when you're not. But even in the darkest places, everything, the seed of meaning, can be planted. Even if all you can do right now is whisper, this won't be wasted. That whisper is a spark that can grow into fire. Everything. Action is the bridge between pain and purpose. If you sit in pain and do nothing, it grows heavier. But when you take action, even the smallest step, you start to reclaim control. Everything. Write about your pain in a journal. Share your story with someone who needs it. Volunteer for a cause that touches the same wound you carry. Create something, a song, a painting, everything, a project that channels the emotions inside you. Purpose is not found in waiting for pain to go away. It's discovered in what you do with the pain while it's here. Everything. Another important truth is this: your pain does not define your entire identity. It is part of your story, but it is not the whole story. Everything. Too many people wear their wounds like permanent labels. I'm the one who failed. I'm the one who got abandoned. I'm the one who suffered. And yet, everything. When you turn pain into purpose, you reframe the narrative. You stop being the one who suffered, and you become the one who rose. Instead of saying, everything, you can one day say, I was forged. The labels change when you take ownership of the story. Sometimes, the purpose you find is simply gratitude. Everything. It might sound strange, but pain can awaken you to the beauty of what remains. When you've walked through hardship, the small joys, sunlight on your face, laughter with a friend, everything, the quiet moment of peace in your own mind, become treasures you never noticed before. Pain strips away the illusion that life owes us comfort, everything, and it leaves us with a sharper appreciation of the moments that truly matter. And in that way, even suffering can deepen the richness of how you live. So, everything. If you're walking through pain right now, remember this: you do not need to have all the answers today. You do not need to know exactly how this will shape you, everything. But hold on to the truth that it can shape you, that it can be more than just suffering. Ask yourself, what could this teach me? How could this equip me? Everything. Who might this allow me to help in the future? These questions turn the weight of pain into the weight of growth. You are not broken beyond repair. You are being reshaped, everything. And sometimes the cracks in your life let the light in, not just for you, but for everyone who sees your courage, everything. Turning pain into purpose is not about pretending the pain was good. It's about refusing to let it be wasted. It's about writing a story that says, yes, I suffered, but I also rose, everything. I also gave. I also transformed. And that story is one worth living. There's a misconception many people carry about happiness. We're taught, sometimes subtly and sometimes outright, everything. That happiness is something you reach only after certain milestones. You'll be happy when you land the promotion, when you buy the dream house, when you find the perfect partner, everything. When life finally lines up the way you imagined it in your head. And while those moments can bring joy, they are fleeting. They pass, and soon enough we're chasing the next thing, everything. Believing happiness lives somewhere out there, just a little further ahead. The truth is, happiness isn't waiting for you at the finish line of some massive achievement, everything. It's woven into the small, almost ordinary things you do every single day. And when you understand this, everything, you begin to see that happiness isn't as distant or complicated as the world makes it seem. Think back to the last time you had a genuinely good day, everything. It might not have been on a holiday or during a grand event. Maybe it was the morning you woke up rested, made a cup of coffee, and watched the sunrise, everything. Or the day you finally stepped outside, took a long walk, and felt the air clear your thoughts. Or even the moment you laughed with a friend over something silly and meaningless, everything. But your chest felt lighter because of it. These are not world-shaking events, but they shift your energy. They matter, because happiness is built on small habits that, when repeated, everything, become part of who you are. Let me share a story about someone I once knew. She was a teacher, always under stress, constantly buried under grading papers and managing her classroom, everything. She told me once that she felt trapped in a cycle of exhaustion, that happiness was something she'd enjoy only after retirement, everything. But then she started experimenting with the tiniest of changes. Instead of scrolling her phone first thing in the morning, she began writing down one thing she was grateful for. Not a list, everything, not a long journal entry, just one sentence. At first, it felt silly, but within a month, she noticed something remarkable. Her mornings no longer felt like a race, everything. She felt calmer walking into her classroom. And when problems showed up, they didn't crush her in the same way. That one small habit didn't erase the stress of her job, everything. But it shifted her mindset enough that she could carry happiness into her day rather than waiting for life to magically remove all challenges. Everything. We underestimate the compound power of small actions. Just like a single coin dropped into a jar might seem meaningless until day by day the jar begins to fill, everything. Happiness builds through the small investments you make in yourself. These are investments of attention, of energy, of care. And here's the good news: they're within your reach. Everything. You don't need a lottery win or a life transformation. You just need the courage to start small and the consistency to keep going. Everything. Think of it this way. Your daily habits are like the soil in which happiness grows. If you water it with negativity, comparison, and constant stress, you'll struggle to see joy bloom. Everything. But if you plant gratitude, movement, rest, and connection, you create an environment where happiness naturally thrives. That means paying attention to the small rituals you already do, everything, and asking yourself, are these feeding me or draining me? Take, for example, the way you start your day. Many people open their eyes and instantly dive into a flood of notifications, emails, everything, and news. And just like that, their nervous system is hijacked before they even leave the bed. What if, instead, you gave yourself 10 quiet minutes? Maybe you stretch, everything. Maybe you breathe deeply. Maybe you simply savor a glass of water and let yourself wake gently. That one small shift can set the tone for the hours that follow. Or consider movement, everything. You don't need a gym membership or a perfect workout routine to benefit from moving your body. Happiness often flows from simply honoring your body with small acts. Taking a brisk walk, everything. Dancing to one song in your kitchen, standing up and stretching when you feel sluggish. It's not about burning calories, everything. It's about shaking loose the stress that builds up when you stay still too long. Movement tells your body, I care about you. And that message, repeated daily, everything, builds a foundation of energy that fuels your joy. Another small but powerful habit is presence. In our fast-paced world, we're often in 3 places at once. The memory of yesterday, everything. The worry about tomorrow, and the distraction of our devices. But happiness lives here, in the now. Practicing presence doesn't mean becoming a monk or retreating from the world. Everything. It can be as simple as noticing the warmth of your coffee in your hands, or listening fully to a loved one's words without planning your response. These moments seem small, everything. But they are the building blocks of a happier life, because they connect you to what's real right now. And then there's kindness. It may sound cliché, everything, but science confirms it. Acts of kindness boost not only the receiver's happiness, but the giver's as well. You don't need to organize a massive charity project. Everything. Start with small gestures, a smile to a stranger, a text to check in on a friend, holding the door open for someone in a rush. These may seem insignificant, everything, but they create ripples of connection that make you feel more alive, more grounded, more human. When you string these habits together, gratitude, movement, presence, everything, kindness, you begin to notice that your baseline mood shifts. You're not just reacting to life's circumstances, everything. You're proactively building a reservoir of joy that carries you through the inevitable challenges. Because yes, life will still be hard. Problems won't vanish. But with these habits, everything, you're no longer waiting for happiness to arrive. You're cultivating it daily, like a gardener tending a living, breathing source of beauty, everything. I want you to think about your own life right now. What's one small habit you could introduce tomorrow? Not 10. Not a complete overhaul of your routine. Just one. Everything. Maybe it's drinking water first thing in the morning. Maybe it's writing down one good thing that happened today before you go to bed. Everything. Maybe it's putting your phone down during meals and truly tasting your food. Whatever it is, let it be small enough that you cannot fail. Everything. Because success in building happiness doesn't come from giant leaps. It comes from stacking small wins until they reshape the way you live. Imagine this a month from now, everything. You've added just 1 or 2 tiny practices into your day. On the surface, nothing in your external world has dramatically changed. The bills are still there, everything. The responsibilities still weigh on you. But inside, something is different. You feel lighter, you smile more easily. You notice beauty you used to rush past, everything. And you carry yourself with a quiet strength because you've realized happiness isn't some distant prize. It's right here, in the way you choose to live your ordinary days. Everything. And when tough times hit, and they will, you'll discover that these small habits have built a kind of inner muscle. You'll have practices to fall back on. Everything. Routines that remind you who you are and what you value. That's the power of daily happiness. It's not fragile, it's resilient. It's not waiting for permission, everything. It's already growing in the soil of your choices. So start small. Let happiness be something you practice in moments, not something you postpone until milestones. And when you do everything, you'll see what so many have discovered before you. That joy is less about what happens to you and more about how you choose to meet life every single day, everything. Imagine standing in the middle of a storm. The sky is dark, the wind is fierce, rain lashes against your face, and everything around you feels like it's spinning out of control. Yet everything, in the very center of that storm, there is a place of stillness, a calm eye where the winds do not rage. That is what inner peace feels like. Life will never stop bringing storms. Everything, chaos in the world, difficulties at work, struggles in relationships, personal setbacks, unexpected losses, they are all part of being alive. Everything. But when you learn how to build an unshakable peace within yourself, you carry that calm center wherever you go. And no matter how strong the winds blow, you are not easily moved. Everything. We often make the mistake of thinking peace comes only when problems are solved, when circumstances are finally perfect. when everyone around us behaves exactly as we'd like them to. Everything. But that's a fragile kind of peace, one that can shatter at the first sign of disruption. Real peace is something different. Real peace is an anchor you carry inside. Everything. A strength that does not rise and fall based on who approves of you, how much money you make, or how smoothly things are going. Everything. It's not about ignoring pain or pretending struggles don't exist. It's about finding that deep breath, that steady ground, even while the storm rages. Everything. There was once a painting competition held to capture the essence of peace. Many artists submitted serene images of sunsets, gentle lakes, fields of flowers under clear skies. Everything. But the winning painting was surprising. It showed a violent waterfall crashing down with incredible force. Hidden within the rocks beside it was a small bird, calmly sitting in its nest. Everything, sheltered yet fearless despite the thunder of the water all around. That image holds the truth. Peace isn't the absence of noise or chaos. Everything. Peace is the ability to remain steady even when the world is loud. So how do we build this unshakable inner peace? It starts with the way we train the mind. Everything. Picture your thoughts like waves on the ocean. When the wind picks up, the waves become rough. But beneath the surface, in the depths of the water, there is stillness. Everything. That deeper level is where peace is found. The first step is learning how to pause, to breathe, to reconnect with that deeper space inside yourself. Many people spend their entire day reacting to everything around them. Emails, traffic, arguments, everything. Disappointments. Never once realizing they have the power to step back and choose a different response. When you pause and breathe, even for a few seconds, everything. You create distance between yourself and the storm. That distance is where calm is born. Think of a time when someone said something that instantly angered you. Everything. Maybe it was a comment that felt unfair, or a criticism you didn't expect. The natural impulse is to snap back, to defend yourself, to let frustration spill out. But imagine if everything, in that exact moment, you had taken a slow breath instead of reacting. Imagine if you allowed 3 seconds of silence before responding. In that silence, you would have found a choice. Everything. Do I give away my peace to this moment, or do I protect it? That tiny pause is powerful. It turns reaction into response. Everything. It teaches the mind that external chaos doesn't have to control your internal state. Another tool for building inner peace is shifting the story you tell yourself about challenges. Everything. 2 people can experience the same situation and walk away with entirely different levels of calm. Let's say both lose their jobs unexpectedly. One person falls into despair. Everything. Replaying thoughts like, "I'm a failure, my life is ruined, nothing ever works out for me." The other person feels the sting of loss, but reframes it. "This is hard." Everything. But maybe it's also an opportunity. Maybe this is the push I need to explore something new, to grow in ways I never would have. The external chaos is the same. Everything. The difference lies in the inner narrative. Peace is less about what happens to you and more about what you choose to believe about it. Of course, everything. That doesn't mean pretending things are good when they're not. Peace isn't fake positivity. It's not putting on a smile while you're falling apart inside. Everything. It's about honesty without panic. It's being able to admit, yes, this situation is difficult. Yes, I feel hurt, frustrated, or uncertain. And yet, everything. Instead of letting those emotions run your life, you hold them with compassion and move forward anyway. Think of emotions like visitors knocking at your door. Anger, fear, everything. Stress. They will come. But you don't have to invite them in to stay forever. You can acknowledge them, learn from them, everything, and still choose to keep your house, the space within you, peaceful. One practical way to build this skill is through daily rituals that strengthen your mental and emotional resilience. Everything. Meditation is one of the most powerful practices. You don't have to sit cross-legged on a mountaintop for hours. Even 5 minutes a day of closing your eyes, focusing on your breath, everything, and noticing your thoughts without judgment can create profound shifts. Over time, meditation trains the brain to stay calm in situations that once triggered panic. Everything. Another ritual is journaling, writing out your thoughts instead of letting them spin endlessly in your mind. When words move from your head to paper, they lose some of their power over you. Everything. They become clearer, easier to understand, and less overwhelming. Gratitude is another powerful practice. It might sound simple, but choosing to focus on what's still good, everything, even in the hardest times, grounds you. Gratitude doesn't erase pain, but it balances perspective. Everything. A person who loses something important but still notices small blessings. A supportive friend, a sunrise. Everything. the ability to keep going, carries a shield of peace that prevents bitterness from taking over. Relationships also play a role in our inner calm. Everything. Some people carry storms inside them and try to pass those storms on to others. If you constantly surround yourself with people who thrive on drama, gossip, or negativity, their chaos will seep into you. Protecting your peace often means setting boundaries, choosing carefully who gets access to your energy, and being brave enough to walk away from environments that keep you in turmoil. That isn't selfish, it's survival. Inner peace flourishes when you're not constantly dragged into other people's storms. At the same time, building peace means strengthening your ability to be present. Most of our anxiety comes not from this moment, but from thoughts about the past or fears about the future. Think about it right now, in this very second. You are safe enough to listen to these words. The roof hasn't fallen. The earth hasn't stopped spinning. Yet the mind loves to wander into what-ifs that rob you of calm. Being present doesn't mean ignoring responsibilities. It means training yourself to focus on what's real now, not what might go wrong later. Even in moments of stress, asking yourself, what is true right now? What can I handle in this one moment? Brings you back to the eye of the storm. I once met someone who had gone through unimaginable tragedy. She had lost her partner in an accident, and her life was turned upside down overnight. Yet, when she spoke, there was a gentleness about her, a serenity that almost seemed otherworldly. I asked her how she managed to carry such calm after so much loss. She told me, I realized that peace was my responsibility. Life had taken things from me, but I refused to let it also take my soul. I learned to sit with my grief but not let it harden me. I made peace my daily practice. Her words left a mark on me. They reminded me that peace is not something that falls from the sky. It is something we build, brick by brick, through the choices we make each day. And the truth is, building unshakable peace takes practice. It doesn't happen overnight. But every small decision, to pause instead of react, to breathe instead of panic, to notice blessings instead of only problems, becomes a layer of strength. Eventually, those layers form an unbreakable foundation. And when the storms of life come, as they always will, you no longer fear them. You may not control the winds, but you know how to remain grounded in the eye of the storm. Imagine, for a moment, that your life is a story being written one day at a time. Each chapter has its struggles, its plot twists, its victories, and its heart-touches, But the question is never just about what happens to you. The real question is about how you respond to what happens and what meaning you choose to attach to those experiences. Because in the end, it isn't the struggle itself that defines us. It's the size of the life we choose to live beyond the struggle. There are people who spend their entire existence locked in survival mode. They wake up, go through the motions, fight battles, pay bills, and endure hardships, all while waiting for that magical moment when everything will finally calm down. But that moment never really comes, does it? Life is not designed to flatten out into smooth, trouble-free perfection. Struggles are stitched into the very fabric of our journey. And yet, when we shift our perspective, when we stop asking, why me, and instead begin asking, what can I give? What can I create? How can I use this? That is when life expands into something far bigger than the struggle itself. Think about history's great figures. Many of them did not live lives free from pain. In fact, their struggles were often the very spark that ignited their greatness. Nelson Mandela spent 27 years in prison. Yet his vision for freedom and reconciliation extended far beyond the bars that held him. Viktor Frankl endured the unimaginable horrors of concentration camps. Yet he discovered that even in the darkest suffering, a human being can find meaning, and meaning can create the possibility of joy. These examples remind us of something deeply human, that the path to lasting happiness is not the elimination of pain, but the expansion of purpose. Now you might be thinking, well, I'm no Mandela. I'm no Frankl. I'm just trying to get through my own mess, and that's fair. But here's the truth. You don't have to change the world in order to live a life bigger than the struggle. Sometimes, it's as simple as lifting your eyes from your own problems and seeing how you can contribute to the people around you. Happiness grows the moment your story stops being only about you and starts connecting with others. I once met a woman who had lost almost everything: her husband, her home, and even her health in a series of painful years. She told me there was a time when she thought her life was over, when she could see no reason to get up in the morning. But then, everything, in the quietest way, something shifted. She started volunteering at a local shelter, simply folding donated clothes, organizing shelves, serving meals. And she told me that in those moments, everything, her grief softened, her pain didn't disappear, but it stopped being the whole story. Because she realized she could still give, she could still matter, everything. That sense of contribution became the seed of her new joy. That's the secret most people overlook. Happiness multiplies when it is shared, everything. If you've ever helped a friend when they were down, or given time to a cause bigger than yourself, everything, you've felt it. That surge of fulfillment that money can't buy and hardship can't erase. You see, the struggle shrinks when your purpose grows, everything. But let's bring it closer to your daily reality. Living a life bigger than the struggle doesn't always require grand gestures. It can start with gratitude, everything. Gratitude is the lens that transforms ordinary life into something extraordinary. When you wake up and choose to notice what's still good, your breath, your body, your relationships, everything, even the smallest comforts, you create space for happiness even when life is tough. Gratitude doesn't erase pain, but it gives you strength to rise above it, everything. I want you to think about a simple practice. Every night before bed, write down 3 things you're grateful for, even if they're tiny. Some nights it might be as simple as everything. I had a warm meal, or I heard my child laugh. Over time, this habit rewires your brain to see abundance where you once only saw lack. And when your focus shifts, everything, your energy shifts, and suddenly the struggle doesn't consume all the air in the room. Another way to live beyond the struggle is to anchor yourself in contribution. Ask yourself daily, everything. Who can I help today? Who can I encourage? Sometimes the smallest acts carry the greatest weight. A text message to check in on someone, everything. A smile offered when you don't feel like smiling. Time given to listen when you could have walked away. These moments create ripples far greater than you realize, and those ripples, everything, in turn feed your own sense of purpose. There's also a deeper layer here. Living bigger means finding meaning in your own wounds, everything. The very struggles you've endured may hold the power to help someone else. The addict who finds recovery can inspire others still trapped in chains. Everything. The person who has navigated loss can comfort someone just beginning their journey through grief. Your scars are not just reminders of pain, they can be signposts of hope. Everything. When you begin to share your story, when you allow your battles to become a light for someone else, you rise above mere survival and step into legacy. But here's something important. Everything. Living bigger than the struggle doesn't mean pretending the struggle doesn't exist. It doesn't mean plastering on a fake smile or denying your feelings. Everything. Real happiness is not about suppression, it's about integration. It's about holding your pain in one hand and your purpose in the other, and walking forward anyway. This is why gratitude, everything, contribution, and meaning are so powerful. They don't erase the hard chapters, but they remind you that the story is still worth telling. Consider the metaphor of a mountain, everything. When you're climbing, every step can feel like agony. The rocks cut your hands, the air thins, and your legs ache. But then you pause, lift your eyes, and catch a glimpse of the view, everything. Suddenly, the struggle has context. The pain doesn't vanish, but it becomes part of something breathtaking, something expansive, everything. Living bigger than the struggle is like remembering to look up from the rocks beneath your feet to the horizon stretching endlessly before you. And so, everything. I want to ask you, what would it look like for you to live a life bigger than the struggle you're facing right now? Maybe it's starting a gratitude practice. Maybe it's volunteering, everything, or mentoring someone who's walking a road you've already traveled. Maybe it's simply shifting your mindset from, why me, to, how can I grow, everything. And how can I give? Whatever it is, know this: you were not created just to survive. You were created to contribute, to create, to inspire, to love. And even in the hardest seasons, everything, especially in the hardest seasons, that calling still stands. When life presses you down, when it tries to shrink your vision to nothing but problems and pain, everything, that is the exact moment to rise higher. To remind yourself, my story is bigger than this struggle. My purpose is larger than this pain. My joy is deeper than my circumstances. And my life, everything, even with all its scars, can be a gift to others. That's when happiness stops being fragile, when it no longer depends on everything going right, everything. That's when it becomes lasting, because it is built not on what you get, but on what you give.